Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor-Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. The Grant are many things. I try to help with advice, insights, how-tos, don't-dos, and generally give a voice to the community. But the Grant is also opening up on practicalities. How are actual projects working when they are running? And this week is a peek into an Erasmus Plus project. Through my daytime work, I am involved in an Erasmus Plus project called WIN4SMEs, focused on securing enough heads and hands in the future for manufacturing SMEs. And of course, I am instrumentalizing the grant in the project. I recorded an episode when we had the kickoff meeting in April in Hamburg, and we will be recording an episode every time we have a partner meeting. In October, we met for a partner meeting and a Train the Trainer session. The program was arranged as an internal partner course with guidelines on how to set up and run a local collaboration between vocational training schools, industry and universities. Hence, the focus of this project podcast episode is on the Train the Trainer as a concept. This became a nice conversation about how to set this up and the complexity of carrying it out. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today we are going to have maybe you can hear the sound is a little different than it normally is. And that's because I'm recording this in person together with my two guests here. And the only time that has happened earlier was when I was recording an episode on a kickoff meeting in the WIN4SMEs project that some of you of my regulars might remember. And today is another episode in that flow. We have promised each other in this project that we will try to record some episodes every time the partners are gathered, and that's exactly what we are in these couple of days here in Vilnius. So first and foremost, Anna and Sirpa, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, thank you very much.
Now, we won't do this long. It's been a long day, which, as everybody out there knows, when you have partner meetings, it's from early morning to late afternoon, and everybody is totally exhausted. So I'm not going to keep my guests here long because we're project partners. I don't want them to be angry with me when we have to go and get something to eat later. Now, just so everybody is on board what we're doing here, Anna, can you share a little bit with the listeners what is the WIN4SMEs project?
Yes, of course. Hello, everybody, and hello, Niels. Don't worry, I'm not hangry yet. Nothing like this is going to happen. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to share information about our project, which is called WIN4SMEs, so Regional and International Education Partnerships for Workplace Innovation in SMEs. In a nutshell, just short as well, the duration of our project is 48 months. What we have within our project is we're focusing on building 3-stage competence centers, so centers of vocational excellence with a good set of actors involved. We're talking about vocational schools, we're talking about educational institutions, we're talking about chambers, SMEs, that's the link up. To the work world, so to say, and we're talking about universities, colleges, universities of applied sciences. And what we're working on within this project is a pretty big, vast array of tasks. But if we really want to boil it down to a good couple, then we're talking about educational measures from EQF level 3 to 6. Within the realm of workplace innovation. And here some of the things that I can mention is dual vocational training, dual studies as well, dual study programs, modules, models, and best practices for workplace innovation developed within the further vocational training setup, and also innovation and promotion and R&D tasks with a big focus, of course, entrepreneurship. So we have creativity trainings for entrepreneurs, trainings for aspiring entrepreneurs. I will continue just with a couple of overarching goals to give you an idea. So we want to establish 7 3-stage centers of vocational excellence. So we have Denmark, Finland, Germany, Hungary, Lithuania, Netherlands, Poland, and +1 preparation center of vocational excellence in Ukraine. And all of this is to work on within the framework of the elements that I mentioned before, promotion of international cooperation. And we want to boost workplace innovation, basically, in SMEs. And we want to nurture a skilled workforce and entrepreneurship, foster collaboration, foster innovation, and promote knowledge transfer. So I think this is it in a very big nutshell.
Yeah, and the square root is actually the lack of labor. Yeah, the lack of hands. Yeah. So this is if we boil down why we're doing all this, it's a matter of saying, okay, we will be lacking people in the manufacturing industry over the next 10, 15 years. It's going to be a European problem. It's not a local problem. Everywhere it's going to be like that. And so we work with the companies to accept that they have to change. That's the workplace innovation part, right? They have to accept that they have to suck up other segments of the population that they're normally used to. And on the other hand, on the educational side, we will work with training them, yeah. and developing a collaboration around the feeding into them. So working with the refugees, working with disabilities, working with more women, and so on and so forth, to sort of widening the pool of skilled labor for manufacturing industries.
That's exactly it, Niels. So we know that there's a lack of workforce, indeed. So we know that we need to make vocational. So these are centers of vocational excellence, right? So the name itself shows the kind of focus and what we're concentrating on. But what's also important to mention about this feeding in is that each and every one of our centers of vocational excellence also has a focus thematic. And I think these focus thematics play very nicely into what you just said. So the feeding process, maybe that's, it's a very descriptive word to use. So we do have certain centers of vocational excellence which will focus on attracting the younger generation to vocational training, right? We have exactly what you said. We have a COVE focusing on integrating refugees and other foreigners into this area. We have a good other set, of course. We have inclusivity, so women, the silver workforce as well, how they can still contribute, in what way they can do the transfer knowledge, and all of this is essentially working towards a bigger goal of feeding into more people into the system. So then we then end up with more people working in the vocational sector.
It's a matter of reshuffling people what they do, and then it's a matter of using the technologies because they're like to be more efficient, so to say, so people can ship. That's the project. So today we're going to talk about train the trainer concept. And why do we have train the trainer concept, and why is that part of the project? So that's because we need to do some courses, we need to do some trainings for companies. We need them to open up to find out how they can, this is employer branding, right? It's a matter of how they can change the culture in the workplace, how they can adapt the workplace, how they can move forward in a place where they learn or get adjusted to how to deal with this. But in order to do that, we need to train the trainers.
Yes, that's just true that we need to train the trainers, and that's a major part in our project here. So we have to train the persons who are dealing with education institutes, who are dealing with chambers, and who are dealing with the companies. So someone who understands the whole picture, not only a tiny part of it, but you have to understand the whole picture. That's why we need train the trainer program. programs.
Yeah, and because I'm out of my, I'm like a fish out of water because it's an in-person conversation. I forgot simply to ask you to present yourself a little bit because we need to do that because that's important for Sirpa here. So first, Anna, maybe you say a few words who you are.
My name is Anna Maria Chadna. I am the project coordinator of the WIN4SMEs project, and I represent Hansa Parliament as lead partner in the project.
Yeah, and Sirpa.
Yeah, my name is Sirpa Sandelin, and I represent the Satakunta University of Applied Sciences in Finland. I'm also at this point representing our Satakunta Chamber of Commerce and other partner, Sata Edu, which is a vocational education institute. So I'm the project manager in our university.
Hence, you know a lot about Train the Trainer, and that's why, because you are per se the one in this project as a partner that is leading the activity on Train the Trainer, which makes you quite a nice capacity on that. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing. Sirpa, I'm going to say something about you now. So Sirpa and Zamk and myself and us as Hansa Parliament, we've been working on a multitude of projects. We've had the pleasure to work with them. And they have been in the past responsible for many Train the Trainer programs. So just wanted to add on the experience here when it comes to conceptualizing and the development of these programs.
Yeah, and this is of course of interest for everybody out there, my dear listeners, who are working with these things, because I know I have COVE listeners out there. I know I have Erasmus Plus project implementers out there. So this is of course to qualify, to open the window a little bit into how this works in the COVE project. So specifically for you out there that works with this should be interesting. So, Sirpa, yes. Train the Trainer as a concept. Can you share a little bit with the listeners first and foremost?
So if we start, Train the Trainer, as the name says, we are training trainers. So persons who are giving advice, consultation, mentoring, delivering knowledge to companies, and especially training people and giving hints how to train, not only creating some kind of fancy programs. But we are as a group of people, we are trying to give the tools for companies, educators, chambers, craft chambers, and all other people, how to run this kind of train the trainers. So what do you need to know? It's not an easy task because you have to know a lot of things. And that's why we start from the very basics. So there are different kinds of train the trainers, like if we are now tomorrow and starting to train those ones who create the COVEs in their regions. Then we train, for example, chamber and education institute people to mentor, supervise, organize trainings for companies and people to get this skill later into companies. So we have to know what are the needs of the companies. So what kind of education is needed, how to organize it, how to develop the programs, and how to create a number of staff members who can deliver this message into companies.
Yeah, and the first thing I think, as a lay person, so to say, and not knowledgeable of this, would be that would there be a difference between training trainers that are already pedagogically taught, so to say, teachers from school, and then persons who are working in the Chamber of Commerce and need to start to make courses for companies?
Yeah, there is a difference, and because the role of Chamber of Commerce is different. For example, if we think about Germany or Finland, so the role is totally different, and then we have to know what kind of role does the chamber have. Then, if we are training, for example, vocational education institute staff or higher education staff,
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. And when we put all these together and also link some companies, then you can imagine it's a really challenging task to create the kind of program that everybody gets what they are looking for.
Yeah. And the next thing I'm thinking, the culture should also play a role. You mentioned now Germany and Poland and Finland. I guess this is a whole...
That is the clue. Yeah. That is the clue, because we have now partners from 9 countries and they are different. Somebody might say that, for example, Finland is quite close to Estonia, Lithuania. It's not that way.
Mm-hmm.
There are similarities, but there are something which is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know your partners. As well as you are, when you are running, for example, this Center of Excellence, you have to know who are you going to train, what is your companies, what do they need. You have to have good relations. And this culture is one thing, because we can't give a very general information to everybody. We can't do that. We have to take into account from which countries people are, what we can say when we train people, how we train it, what are the abilities to digest all the information which we are delivering.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are going to give a lot of information within these train-the-trainer occasions, 2 days occasions. So the amount of information is very big, and then finally we give the role to the centers themselves to take the parts which they really need, start from them and then expand. Mm-hmm. We don't expect at the moment that everything is, okay, we do this, we do that, and we are excellent. No. The steps are there. And because the cultures and countries are different, the steps are different. They are not similar. So some might progress quite quickly. In some countries, it takes more time. For example, how to create the connections to the companies, industries, other stakeholders. It depends on the culture and country.
Yeah. Do you, as a Universities of Applied Science, per se, close to or closer to industry, SMEs?
Yes.
It's because the areas that you're working within, the fields, sectors you're working within, it's important to be close to the industry more than if you are universities working like, of course, you have engineering, but here you're talking almost exclusively areas that are close to companies, which means that you, as an organization and you as a professional, you are used to handling both teachers internally in the organization, so you know how to work with the teachers, but you also know how to work from a company point of view. Is that correct?
That's true, and it's also very important to understand how the chambers of commerce work, because we have a triangle in a way. So you have educators, chambers, and those companies. Then you have lots of other organizations, and that one you have to know. So it's I would say that it's quite difficult or challenging, I would say, to teach teachers, because teachers have already got the pedagogical training. But then when you go to the companies and you try to apply the same pedagogy, it doesn't work.
No.
So you have to have the means to deliver your message, and that's why we have in the trainer program we have a so-called KIND methodology, where one part of the training, for example, takes place in the company. Mm-hmm. So we are trying to solve something which is important for the company. So give a solution. So there will be student and the guidance is coming from the company side. It's coming also from educator's side. Mm-hmm. Try to find the solution. Yeah. So we don't give real or ready-made solutions. So they are always done based on what the company really needs and what they can offer and how to proceed with that one.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in on one thing that Sirpa said. So, as mentioned before, there's various types of train-the-trainers as well, right? So, the one within our project framework, the one that we'll be actually executing tomorrow, is a train-the-trainer meant for, as Sirpa stated, basically the management of a COVE, setting up a COVE, and it's kind of multifaceted because we have different types of institutions included in COVEs, therefore maybe different types of approaches. And then we also have train-the-trainers that where the target group are, for example, employees of SMEs, as Sirpa stated as well. And I wanted just to give you as well a practical example of this from within our one of our previous projects before we move to an overview maybe of the WIN4SMEs one. So train the trainer, for example, in a project called Visualization and Construction, right? So one of the work packages is collaborative methods of communication. We have a train the trainer program for employees of chambers or teachers within chambers who then come to our train the trainer program, learn the methodology, take knowledge from this trainer, and then act as multipliers from within their institutions, right? So then they relay this knowledge and just to also try to visualize to SMEs, to their members, and just to also visualize the kind method. Let's say that during the train the trainer, we talk about using a very simple one. But many SMEs don't use these kind of collaborative methods. As an example, Google Docs for communication. An employee comes to a train the trainer comes to a training that is led by a person that took part in the train the trainer. They talk about collaborative methods, mention Google Docs. This particular individual says, hey, I see that this could be maybe a solution within my SME, using the Google framework to communicate with my employees. They take that within their company, see how they can get that running while simultaneously having advice and consulting from the trainer to see how they can implement a solution like that within their company. Then they come back after this kind of time spent at the company to try to implement the solution and reflect on it with other participants of the training. So this is trying to visualize it. I hope it was done in a clear way.
Back and forth. It's you guide them, you come, and then you get them started, and then they come back and you guide them in the process of how they're supposed to do this.
Yes, based on the knowledge from within the course that was gained during the train the trainer.
Sometimes these tasks or works, they are very simple, like this Google Docs. Sometimes they are very complex, heavy, like IT sector is trying to implement some kind of quality system which a client wants them to show. So sometimes it's very difficult, but these are quite easy. Some of these Google Docs, sometimes emails, for example.
Sometimes
so it depends on it depends on the companies, what they need.
I have two things I need to check with you before we move into how we're going to work with it here. So first thing I want to check with you, do you normally make a curriculum, or do you make teaching materials, or do you make a frame of how to work for that you give to the trainers as part of the sort of course material, or how does that work?
Yes, of course. We create the curricula. We call it curricula, even though it is a couple of days program. But we have all the materials. We have the content. What are the topics? How would you visualize it? What kind of additional materials you can use? So everything is ready-made. So even those teacher notes are there, so teachers can check what to do, how to do. So everything is ready-made.
Okay. Yeah. Good. And the second thing, do you involve the clients might be the wrong word, but do you involve the pupils, so to say? Do you involve the managers, or do you involve the from the company? Say it's a company, you need to make trainers for a group of companies. Do you involve them at some point of time in relation to what you do in developing things, or do you come with you understand the question? If it's customized.
It's customized.
Yeah.
So for example, if we have a certain type of company, we have a program, then we can negotiate how to alterate it, how to make the slight modifications there. So there isn't only one solution, but it always depends on the companies.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to create them for companies. Like always, for example, in our university, we do project work. Companies here, they need this, and then we negotiate with them and do it together.
Mm-hmm.
So company gets exactly, I would say, the information they need.
Let's move into to how we're going to work with it here, because that was a nice, I think we covered quite well what the concept is and how to work with it. Now, is there anything specifically around this project? How have you scoped the work? Because you already started, you're one of the early partners, so to say, that has to be really active, because naturally, in order to be able in the project to deliver courses to companies, the trainers, of course, needs to be in the left side of the timeline, so to say, quite early. So you've been active for a while, I guess, to develop for this.
In fact, I have been working with Hansa Parliament since the year 2006.
Okay, but not in this project. The European Commission does not hand out projects for 20 years, people.
No, not in this one. Not in this one. No. But this is our 16th project, and we have been developing the trainer programs all the time. So we don't just copy the previous ones. Oh no, we always have a target. Mm-hmm. What is our target? What kind of elements we need? Mm-hmm. So we prepare always the program according to the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing wrong to draw on what you have. That's also why you're here, right? And you have experience. It needs to be adjusted to the concrete project naturally, but you use your experience and the models that you have. Naturally.
We have models. Yeah. We have plenty of models, and each time we will create a new curricula according to the needs.
Sure.
Yes. That's our case.
So how have you done for this one?
Well, this one.
What can we experience tomorrow and the day after tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow, in fact, we have quite a big role for this trainer, and it has been created together on the basis that now we are talking about COVE, which is going to be established. So it's like establishing a company, Similar elements. Of course, the area and stakeholders and whatever, they are a bit different. But the elements are similar, like running an enterprise.
Yeah.
So that's why we have started from very basic things, and the aim is, of course, to give the kind of education that after these 2 days, the participants really can have some tools to create their own COVE.
Yeah, now I'm going to be a participant, and I'm going to be on the side of, so to say, chambers of commerce. So I will have to do some courses with companies and trainings and so on. So what can I expect? What will you teach me?
Well, you can get different things. Mm-hmm. So if your task is, for example, sell trainings for companies, mm-hmm. you will get tools how to market, how to promote these things, how to take into account, for example, the culture of the company, mm-hmm. if you know it beforehand. So everything like this. So it's about marketing and selling, and then negotiating how to create this program. So taking into account these things, and then you will also get some tools, for example, when you organize trainings, first you think where to get the money. Mm-hmm. That is first thing. So we will give some ideas how to get the finance for your activities, how much you can, for example, charge from your client, how to cover the costs. And these are some of the things which we could offer you.
Yeah. So I can say, and I'm gonna. So for the listeners, I can indeed tell you that as a professional that often has to recruit companies for stuff, for things that I think is important for them, or I'm part of a project that does something that think it's important for them. The companies don't necessarily think that it's important for them when I reach out. So exactly the first part of how to reach out and how to deal with that process, that's maybe the most important of everything, to drag them into the to the throw, so to say. So yeah.
That is one of the questions, how to get the attention of the companies. And that's a very tricky question all over our partners. So same thing. So you have to have something which promotes, for example, the competencies in the company. So they can maybe create more money from actions. So plenty of things are still there, which we have to do, but we'll try at least to give you some kind of tools and the knowledge to survive in this changing world, because we all know what happened after Corona, for example, or when the Corona came, what happened after that. So how the companies could survive in changing society. These are one of the major topics also in our program. So we know that their society is changing. So something how the companies could find skilled workers, how they could develop their own workers, for example. So how to cope with all these issues which are coming. Or also something which we don't yet know. Who knows what happens? Still, you have to be ready for change situations.
Anna, you
I wanted to add something. Yes, what I wanted to add about the train the trainer programs within our particular framework as well. So within the WIN4SME framework, we have a multitude of nationalities and different cultural approaches as well. As Zirpa mentioned, what we also have is we have a multitude of diversified experience when it comes to establishing networks, how to get stakeholders involved, how to communicate, of course. And I think this is also a treasure trove, quite frankly, when it comes to, because for every train the trainer, we also, of course, have time for discussions, times for experience exchange, for knowledge exchange. And sometimes it sounds, okay, knowledge exchange, what happens every single time, etc. But actually, in these cases, it proves to be very helpful because it may give impulses and new ideas, creative ideas for COVEs that are being set up on how to approach, how to set up, and continue with the development of their COVEs. And also, one more thing that I wanted to add. This project in general is a 4-year-long project. So we're having a train the trainer now, of course, about setting up the COVEs because it's time for that, because we're within the activities of setting up COVEs and finalizing or formalizing the setups. But this doesn't mean that this project, or not the project, but the program is closed forever, right? So obviously we'll be developing and we'll have learnings throughout the framework of the project. And one of the elements as well of this activity, Train the Trainer, is an evaluation. And that's also something worth mentioning. So every single participant will evaluate the training and then give, in this case, Zirpa, and, well, actually, in this case, I'm sorry, it's the Technical University of Wrocław, both data input, so qualitative, quantitative input on maybe how it went, what was missing, what maybe they would need in their national conditions. And then this will later on be implemented, developed, and enhanced according to those evaluation results. So something that I wanted to mention here.
Yeah, that's true that we need to evaluate everything and not only the student give the feedback, but also teachers. So because the groups are different, so we get also valuable information when we ask certain issues from teachers. We know that okay, the group was this. Then we see what the students answered, and we compare and try to find some more solutions based on these. So it's quite a big job, and of course we are always trying to develop these programs.
Now I broke you off when I had to to share how important it was to recruit companies. Now you were telling me and sharing with us what I can expect from the next couple of days. So you went through the first couple of things, but what else?
Well, I would say one thing. So if you don't know yet yourself,
I'm opening up for the listeners, right?
there is a list or the tool which you can use, and you get the result, and then you can think, are you the kind that tool gives you indication? So that one is one exceptional thing, I would say. Test yourself.
So what I'm going to do, so this is a podcast that tries to be transparent towards my dear listeners, and so can we share some of the documents because there will be an episode site, will be a website for this specific episode. Is there some information we can put there, PDFs or something like this of documents that people can see themselves?
What do you say on?
Yeah, for sure.
Because then when
people listen to this, they can click in while we're talking here and see themselves what maybe the program of the 2 days here, when we will just to give people an idea of how you shaped it.
Anyway, all the materials are available to anyone. Yeah. So that's the rule in the European Union finance project.
The results will be openly available. Of course, they won't be finalized until an X point of time. But for the purposes of this particular podcast, I'm pretty sure we can share the agenda. Yeah. We can take a look at the modules, for example, so your listeners kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah, because exactly for an episode like this, it's an informative where people can go and see, that's how they did it, and so that would be nice. Anything else about train the trainer on this? Maybe so now there's going to be a training the next couple of days. But are there any planned in the future partner meetings? Yeah.
Yes, there are actually. So from what I remember right now, from the top of my head, we actually have a total of 3 train the trainers planned within the project duration. We have this one, of course, that's coming up right now for the next 2 days, pretty extensive. And then we have another train the trainer for actually educators. So we're talking about focus on vocational, continuing, and of course, university level trainings. These are going to happen a bit more in the future. So we need to conceptualize and plan that a little bit before we share more information on it. But we have a total of 3.
Yeah, good. So that's a sort of a natural flow of also in the project. All right. Now I have 2 blocks I want to take. First, are there any practical examples or anything nice experience or anything from former projects that you can share where that had some really nice impacts or outcomes or so on? That is there anything from many years of experience?
Well, I think we can talk about a little bit about the digitalization in construction.
Yeah, that was in my mind too. Mm-hmm. So that was one of our projects, and we, for example, we created some training materials on the line in the Moodle system, so the students could progress themselves according to their own schedule. And then there was someone who was supervising, and if there were questions, they were raised up, and the students they got replies and guidance how to carry on their work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is the trend, at least when we talked about the digitalization. So why not to use for e-learning platforms?
Now you mentioned it, and now dotted down here AI. Is that something that you are working towards, using the artificial intelligence, the large language models in the work with train the trainers concepts? Or is it something that you're working with?
At this point, I think we didn't use it that much. Of course, artificial intelligence is the kind of tool which you can use when you try to sketch, for example, what to talk about. Mm-hmm. But AI doesn't give you any accurate answers. You can't rely on that one. No. So maybe we later on, when we develop this one, we can also add some more material on that. But I remember that in one of the trainers, when I gave some pedagogical training, I made some version which was a text created by artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And then I gave the one which I wanted to use. They were totally different. Yeah. Totally different.
Well, it's should never be seen as something that will do the work for you. Huh? It should be seen as a wall you can play up against. Yeah. I think for some areas it's easier to use it for others. But here I was maybe thinking more about how the training, how the participants maybe incorporating it in how they work, or I don't know. Yeah, it was just a thought.
Yeah, but we put our students to do some tasks, quite many tasks during the training. So we are not just giving lectures, but the students are solving some kind of challenges, and they are also creating material for these trainers. Mm-hmm. So that is our approach, and we emphasize the experiences of our target groups. So that is more valuable, that somebody has tried something and somebody hasn't. Okay, I can use that one. Or then somebody says, okay, that doesn't work in our country. Let's try something else.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I just thought about something actually with regard to this question, because you asked for maybe some potential material that we could already share. So when it comes to WIN4SMEs, yes, of course, we can share bits and bobs here and there. But maybe if your listeners are interested, we can also share link ups to the previous Train the Trainers in different projects. Sure. Right?
Yeah.
So this is something that your listeners can take a look at, download freely, of course, and as an exercise, use AI to, for example, process the Train the Trainer and say, hey, how do I adapt this to my national conditions? Yeah. Right? Exactly. And then boom, AI can see, you have to check it. Because as we know, but this is something that might come as a inspo, as one of those, bouncing walls that you say that we can use artificial intelligence for.
Yeah. I had a thought, now it's gone.
It'll come back.
If it's important,
it'll come back.
Yeah, so we will share as much as we can here. So by all means, and then the commission will be very happy to see former projects, because that's your dear commissioners that are also listening to this. You see, that's what we do here. Almost done here. What I always have in my episodes is the toughest challenge. So I ask my guests what the toughest challenge is with the specific topic that we're dealing with. And of course, in this case, what is the toughest challenge in developing Train the Trainer courses in relation to EU projects?
I'm going to go ahead and start out with this one. I think one of the toughest challenges, and this was mentioned already by Sirpa, is trying to take all the target groups into consideration, while creating the curriculum, trying to also keep in mind and understand that every single country has their own sets of regulations, legislation, requirements. Every single country has, or there are, of course, as well, countries that are well versed already, even with work-based learning, dual studies, collaborations between enterprise and education, applied research. And then we also have countries which aren't that well versed. So I think trying to take all of this in consideration and creating a train the trainer specifically, I'm talking about the WIN4SMEs one right now, on how to set up a COVE, how to network within a COVE, how to acquire stakeholders within a COVE. I think this poses to be a challenge. So to try to tailor it, but also keep these national differences in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the national regulations and laws, they have to be taken into account. That's why in the programs we don't give legal topics. We just refer. Check from your local country what are these. But there's one thing I would also raise up is that technology. Because we are going to a place I don't know anything about. Now we are wondering how the technology goes, because we have presentations, we have Padlets, whatever. Mm-hmm. So plan is to meet half an hour before.
Technical logistics.
Yes, something like that. But otherwise, it goes.
If that's the toughest challenge, it makes me happy.
That is actually an element, though. It's always an element.
It's an element. So if there is no technology or the program doesn't work, then we figure out something else. Yeah. And finally, the tough job I think is that we are going to make some kind of wrap upping from these ones. Uh-huh. And after both days, we have to have something wrapped up. And that is a heavy job when you have plenty of presentations and group works and discussions.
I think this thing with different, people come from all kinds of different places, and you have people who will be very active the next couple of days, and then you have people that tap out because it's like this when you are in EU projects. That must be it. And that's also what I realized from a day like today, that in a big project like this, it's complex some of it, and not everybody have read that detailed into the application, I realize. Yeah? So there is an element of people needing to get on board. So you as a coordinator, and there's a huge task there in making sure that everybody understands that we're on common ground, so to say.
Yes, I agree. Just to chime in on that, indeed. So this isn't a 2-year project, and it's a 4-year project, which is double the time, of course, but it's also a massive project. And the pure amount of tasks, I understand as well as a coordinator that it can be overwhelming for some at the very beginning, because essentially, as in with every single project, and I remind myself of this, it's the storming kind of phase, the performing phase, and we're still relatively at the beginning, let's say. We're already starting to think about content, of course, and we already have some content with this Train the Trainer. But in the end, every single partner and every single COVE also needs to look into their tasks. They need to look into, we are here to lead, we are here to work as a consortium as well. But this is why today as well I offered bilateral meetings for every COVE to kind of also get on track with scheduling timelines, with an emphasis on the fact that for these meetings I would like the COVEs to be prepared as well, right? In the sense of extraction of planning and next tasks. And this is also why today we did a Padlet for every single COVE talking about successes until now, which is important, and next steps within the next 2 quarters. And I think we will definitely get there in the end. At the beginning, we just need to visualize.
Yeah, you know what? It's like this. As the host, I can be a little bit more blunt. This is a matter of people taking the responsibility of being in a project where you have to be sure that you are there and well prepared and know exactly why you are there, together with partners, not wasting everybody's time, to making sure that you actually know what you're supposed to do and move the way forward. And then you can be in doubt sometimes. They can be complex and we don't really understand this, but I take that responsibility and then go to your coordinator, and it's just also people out there, many of you are nodding now because you experienced the same thing in projects with many partners. So this is what it is, it's not a free lunch. It's not just money coming in from the commission. You have to go out there and you have to make an effort to make it roll, whatever you're doing there.
Yeah, and with WIN4SMEs, I'm super confident and positive. We have it rolling, and I'm happy to work with the partner consortium on so many, really nice COVEs with good focuses, interesting focuses. We have a broad range of topic matter that we can develop. So it's just, as you said, get the ball rolling and get some visualization points, so we know what the meat to the bone is.
Yeah. And you know what? These are lovely partners here. So it's not a matter of thinking that people are not doing what they're supposed to do, but I know where people are coming from because I'm also having a daytime job, so to say, or responsibilities in where I am that has nothing to do with this. So I know exactly what that is. So it's not a matter of scolding people. It's a matter of slowly squeezing them a little bit as a corner, saying, now it's time to gear up, guys. It's like this. No. Finally, I actually wanted recommendations. Is it something you can recommend, but for others that are working with trainers? Are there any you can say, as when you develop this? Is there anything you can tell people that be aware of this? Or
there are very many things that you should be aware of, but I would say generally that I encourage people to organize the trainers, because that is the only way how you can learn to do things. Do it yourself, at least some parts, and that's the way how things work. And for COVEs, as I mentioned, we are giving a lot of thoughts how to organize them. So it's now on the COVEs, how to apply, what to apply, and we don't expect that everything goes in every COVE. Just pick up the ones which you really need at this point and push forward.
Good. That's it.
Now, I'm just going to land the episode. Dear listeners, thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed this. As always, go to my website, thegrant.eu. That's not only a landing page of podcast, it's also a platform where you find lots and lots of stuff with links and hops to information and other podcasts and so on and so forth. So go in there, check it out. There's lots of episodes within this subject as well now. It's of course following a project here where we try to dig into things, but there are an Erasmus Plus section there you can dig into. And while you're in there, do subscribe to my email list, because that is the way to support the grant. If you have any sympathy with what I'm doing, that's the way to do it. That's what I do to build up what I'm doing here. So thanks in advance for that. And finally, of course, hook up with me on LinkedIn. That's where the fun happens. That's where the flow is. So that's where I like stuff. That's where I share stuff. That's where I comment stuff. That's where I catch a lot of my guests. So that should be an encouragement anyways, if you would like to be a guest on the grant. Now, thanks, Jirpa. Thank you, Anna. And let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You will find the link in the episode notes where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Anna and Sirpa's personal LinkedIn sites. Further, there's of course a link to the project website. Next week, there will be a great treat for you all. Another episode in the AI series focusing on how funding administrators perceive the chatbots and the LLMs. The wonderful Rosie Afia Ford from Digital Kaibu joins Rita, Christian and me in this very popular series. You can indeed look forward to that. Remember that the grant would really like to join some EU proposals as a partner or subcontractor. I am slowly getting interested feedback from having the grant including in proposals for 2025 goals. Reach out if you would also like to have the coolest podcast connected to your consortium. Also remember that you can develop your very own podcast episodes together with the grant. You will get a plug-and-play solution where you only need to think about the content. And who should be on the show? Reach out also if you just want to get an idea of the possibilities. See you next week.